We on? We're live. We're live! Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at whatever time you're watching this on YouTube, because nobody watches this live. Well, a couple people do. Thank you for joining us for the latest SilviaFindings live stream. I had this idea because we were just recently at a show in Ottawa, and somebody was talking about, it was this one customer who was running to a booth, buying some gemstones, running back to our booth, finding settings for them, buying the settings, then running back to another vendor, and then coming back and buying them the thing, just going back and forth and back and forth. And it was clear that it wasn't the normal retail shopper who was just looking to get a couple things that they can wear and things. So she seemed like she had a purpose, I think. And it struck me that the same as okay, I'm gonna ramble a little bit here, so just bear with me, I think. We have a couple of customers that are very regular customers in our Etsy store, and I know that one of them in particular, who spent many tens of thousands, I'm not going to say the amount because it's a lot, many tens of thousands of dollars a year just at our store. And she only buys settings on Etsy, us, and there's a couple of other vendors, but you don't need to look for them, so don't worry about it. Just look at us. And then she also buys, stones, faceted stones, cabochons, whatever, on Etsy. She puts them together and then she sells them on Etsy. So, I mean, her entire business is centered around, that platform. If you're familiar with Etsy, you know that they have like an Etsy account where money that you spend on Etsy comes through, and then they can either bill your credit card or whatever, but they have like an Etsy bank account. So when you sell stuff on Etsy, it goes in your bank account and then in your Etsy account, and then you can transfer it to your bank account, whatever. We do it every day, but it could be once a week, it could be whatever. And the money accumulates in that account. And then you could spend it on Etsy with no extra fees involved. So it works out good, and I thought, there are enough, or there are some people doing this, but there are probably not enough people doing this. And there are tons of gemstone vendors who make standard stones. I don't know if you can see this. Let me just push this up to the camera. Here's a little where's the lens? Oh, there it is. Just a little 7x9 millimeter. This is an aquamarine, kind of dark one. It's very nice. I think I paid $8 for this, right? Just a little faceted stone, $8. And then we have this little, very simple pendant, right? 7x9. This one is $11.44. MTP 1006 if you're interested. You pop this in there, and your cost on this is $20. But if you take this and you go to any costume jewelry store, first of all, in a costume jewelry store like Claire's or whatever, one of those small stores, it won't be sterling. It'll probably be some kind of weird thing. But if you went to any department store and found a setting like this, you're looking at something like, in Canadian dollars, like $60, $80, maybe more, depending on the stone. So I think that there's a potential here for a really good money-making proposition. Obviously there's a little bit more involved in this. You need to have some setting skills. The broader your skills are, the better. The more you understand how the prongs that we put on all the settings are kind of best guesses for what will work best for whatever stone you're putting in there. A lot of them are what I call hybrid settings, where you could use a faceted stone or a cabochon in there. But you'll often have to, dress the ends, trim the prongs down, make the prongs beautiful. And we have other videos, how-to videos that show how to do, kind of all those things. But I don't think we have a formal thing. Hey, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, which most people do, most people who watch it do, not most people. I think there's a playlist with how-tos somewhere on our YouTube page that you can look up. I think one of the most not important, but the most educational one, I think, is the one that's something about dressing your prongs for things, because it explains a lot how the differences between how you would set a cabochon versus how you would set a cut stone, and the differences are pretty significant, even though you might be using the same setting. So having a little bit of that knowledge, and as always, I hope everybody considers us to be a resource for that kind of stuff. I personally have many decades experience in jewelry fabrication, jewelry setting, stone setting. So I mean, and I used to run a jewelry school. So I mean, there really isn't a question you could ask that I probably haven't heard before. And as we all know, right, the only dumb question is the one not asked. So please, we're here. You can reach us through Facebook. Not me, because I'm not on Facebook, but through the company Facebook. Don't get me started. Or you can reach, through the website. We have that live chat thing, which, we try to get on, unless it's the middle of the night, then you're not going to get a live person. You're just going to get that bot saying, we'll respond to you as soon as we can. Because that is something a lot of people don't realize, that live chat on the website, that's actually us. That's not, we don't like hire out to a call center somewhere in Jaipur or something like that. It's actually us who answer those messages, those cyber calls. Anyway, I'm sorry, I was just a little bit disjointed, going everywhere, I think all over the place. My point is, if you can identify a market niche and fill it, it's almost pretty much guaranteed to be printing money. I don't recommend doing something like just opening a website, because having the website is nice, and there are lots of great, you can go through GoDaddy or one of those other ones that do the website packages for you, like Wix, I think is one, Wix, that kind of thing. Those website builders, they can build some beautiful websites, and they have very solid e-commerce infrastructure involved with them. But having the website is only, at 10% of the battle. The other 90% is getting people to actually go to your website and find that. And there are lots of resources for figuring out the best ways to get people to go to your website, through social media, through all kinds of ways. And I'm not going to belabor that concept here. Another way for doing this thing is, doing like live streams. I happen to know there's one gemstone dealer that I'm not good friends with him, but we're acquaintances. We see each other at shows all the time, and he does like a live stream sale, once a week. And people always want to put their best face forward and thing, but if it's to be believed, he'll do many tens of thousands of dollars a week just in that kind of a sale. Now, his product line and his thing is a little bit different than what you would be doing, right? Making jewelry and selling this thing. He might be one of the kind of people that somebody who's doing this would be purchasing from. In fact, I know they would, because he has tons of cabochons and stuff that that particular customer in Ottawa was looking at, I think, and shopping. So once you've identified a good gemstone dealer, and don't be afraid of shopping overseas, shopping internationally. The world is so small right now. Logistics is kind of a problem everywhere right now. You know, but eventually we'll get there. If you're patient, you can get some really amazing deals. Um, if you're watching this on like live now on Facebook, I mean, there are tons of dealers selling stones on Facebook, and you can normally tell which ones are the reputable ones because they have lots of followers, they have lots of great comments, lots of great reviews. Um, Now, theoretically, it is possible to buy reviews, but you know, how many people are actually doing that? I think you can kind of tell which ones are the good ones and which ones aren't. You just do a Google search, faceted gemstones or faceted cabochons in whatever stone you like best, or whatever, and just do a little research and things. Or if you already know a good gemstone dealer, I just know tons of people who have all kinds of stones that are sitting in a drawer, and why not find a simple setting that you can put it in. And as soon as you put it in a setting, it's not a stone or a setting anymore, it's a piece of jewelry, it's an heirloom, it's right. We have tons of chains that are very simple, so you could buy a chain for under $10, and this with a stone with a thing for another $20, so $30, and then 5 minutes of setting for an $80 or $90 thing. Doubling or tripling your money on finished jewelry is pretty much the standard. If you walk into a jewelry store in a mall and you see something that has a price tag of $900 or something, I guarantee that jewelry store didn't pay more than $300 for it. The margins are huge because there just aren't as many. Like, it's not like you're selling bread or eggs where that you have people who need that every day. It's just a function of being in the right place at the right time with a shopper who's looking for something to buy. The nice thing about having a website or doing something like that is that you can potentially, once you start getting some an Etsy store. I like Etsy. I think Etsy is a really great place because people already know what they're looking at there. Etsy isn't the kind of place like Amazon where everything is there. So a lot of the people who may stumble across your products may not know exactly what it is, or they may not understand. I mean, if it's a piece of jewelry, it's kind of obvious. But for our stuff, like for settings, or a gemstone dealer who's just selling gemstones, it might be difficult for them to, find customers on those huge mega platforms because people don't really know what they're looking at. Like if you're looking at a pendant setting with no stone in it, it doesn't always make sense to the average consumer what it is that they're getting. Like, why isn't there a stone in that? Can I order the stone too? Are you going to put a stone in it? How does that work? Or if you're selling jewelry, it's obviously a little bit different. But on a platform like Etsy, where everybody understands that it's mom and pop shops and it's handmade stuff, the beautiful thing about Etsy is that you don't have to make the constituent components to call it handmade. You can buy the stones from one dealer, and you can buy the settings from another dealer, and you put it together, and poof, there's your handmade items. You made it. It's kind of extrapolating a little bit on, like, where would you draw the line? Do you have to, if I'm a jeweler who's making stuff, fabricating stuff, if I'm buying the wire and buying the sheet metal and fabricating it from scratch, sawing and filing and soldering and doing all that stuff, is obviously that's handmade, but I didn't make the silver sheet, I didn't make the wire. Where do you draw the line? Do you have to smelt it yourself? Do you have to go digging, a silver mine, to get the thing right? So it's a matter of question of degrees. And I think if you take it all the way in the other direction, where if you don't make any of the constituent parts, but you're still putting it together and putting it into, pleasing ways, that's great. Another thing besides just buying gemstones, and I don't know why more people don't do this, because I think it's personally I think it's brilliant. Obviously we have way too much to do just trying to sell the settings that we're not interested in finding gemstones dealers and buying stones and also selling finished jewelry, because then we're competing with our customers, right? Which is never a good idea for a business to be in. But what I was going to say is there's another aspect of the business. I don't have a sample here just to show you, but you can look at everything. Any of the settings that we have that are originally imagined for intarsia. And if you're not familiar with what intarsia is where you have gemstones, maybe multiple different gemstones that are kind of stacked together in a mosaic pattern, so they create something, and they're all filed together, so it looks all flat. But I know you've seen it. Like, if I had an example, I could show you. But we have a ton of findings that are made ostensibly for that kind of thing, or that just have a plain bezel that you can put a gemstone in there, or a cabochon, glue a stone in there or something. But what a lot of people are doing with that, those kind of jewelry pieces, is they're filling them with epoxy resin. And I'm just seeing more and more people, so I know it's excuse the pun, a killer business, is they're doing like a commemorative jewelry thing. Or you may have seen like breast milk jewelry where I think it's gross, but the customer would send you some of their breast milk, and then you can dehydrate it and mix up some epoxy resin with some of the dehydrated breast milk, and so it kind of looks like a very lovely I was gonna say creamy, but that's too evocative. Like there's a nice color, off-white, stone, and you can put little, sparkly flecks in there to give it more of a like a goldstone kind of effect, a aventurine kind of effect, or whatever. Or you can just fill those things, like we have a couple of things. We have this one, a couple of dragonfly pendants that have the wings are all these different cells, almost like cloisonné, right? That you could fill those things. Ostensibly, they're meant to be intarsia with stones. You got little gemstone pieces, fill them in there, and stuff. But you could just as easily, or I think personally probably way easier, to fill them with different colors of epoxy resin, and sell them that. You can get some really amazing effects out of that. And I probably should have had a bunch of those samples ready to go, but I didn't. So I think that's basically it. I'm out. I'm done. My point was, don't overlook the fact that it's very easy to buy gemstones all over the place, or learn to cut your own. That's also thing. We took all the staff here a couple of years ago. I think it was before COVID. Yes, we all took a not a faceting class, but a cabochon cutting, stone cutting class at the Richmond Lapidary Club, which here they have a very nice studio there. I was a little bit surprised at how nicely appointed it was, and how impressive it was. But lapidary clubs, they have lapidary clubs in every small town have lapidary clubs. You could find them. You could learn how to cut your own cabochons. One thing I learned about cutting cabochons is it's not difficult to do, but okay, relax, everybody calm down. It's not difficult to do, but it's difficult to do well, if that makes sense, right? I mean, the basic premise of it, you have a slab of stone, you cut it into more or less the shape that you want with a great big saw, and then you stick it on a end of a stick with this stuff, whatever. I'm not going to get into the whole stuff, but it's like a really solid adhesive, and then you use the different grit grinding wheels, so very coarse ones all the way down up to very fine ones, to the coarse ones to refine the shape of the thing, and then the finer ones to develop the high polish finish of them. And like I said, I mean, the basic premise is not very difficult, right? You've got this, you know, spinning grit wheel that you're holding the thing against, and you're moving it around to cut the shape of the stone, you know, the cabochon. Um, but little things about getting the dome, you know, really symmetrical, um, you know, getting the edges cut right. One thing that's a pet peeve of mine as a jeweler is cabochons with flat edges on the outside. Make them really difficult for setting. You know, I like the dome to be tapered all the way to the edge of the bottom edge of the stone, which is a little bit more difficult to do. You know, is just if you're buying pre-made settings, you know, the shape of the cabochon is everything. You know, it makes all the difference. Also, some people cut their cabs too thick, or if you cut them, you know, thinner, then on the underside, inside edge, you need to put a little bevel on there, because if it's just a sharp edge when you're setting it in the thing with prongs, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you'll end up getting a little bit of pressure on the underside edge of the thing, and they could chip and break. So putting a little bevel on the inside edge of that, you know, stops that from happening. You know, those little tricks. You know, and I don't know how to say this without sounding insensitive, but I feel like the lapidary thing is I don't see many young people picking up, you know, the lapidary arts. You know, a few, but not. It seems like every year we go to shows, we do tons of little, you know, lapidary club shows all over the Lower Mainland in around Vancouver. And it seems like the people who are running the shows, you know, the members, they just keep staying the same. They just keep getting older and older, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of younger people, you know, picking up, you know, the art. Is it an art? The craft, let's say. Don't get me started on the difference between art and craft, because I get in trouble all the time. So turning your passion into profit. You know, everybody loves, well, not everybody. You know, if you're watching, I'm assuming you love jewelry, you love stones, you know, you love settings, you love the concept of, you know, getting those things together. It's, I mean, no business is easy. You know, let's face it. You know, obviously, every business requires a little bit of sacrifice, a little bit of, you know, extra work. You know, the old adage. You know, I'll sleep when I'm dead. You know, that kind of thing. Although nobody ever looks back from their deathbed and said, "Gee, I wish I had worked more." But with a little bit of effort and a little bit of patience. And these things take time. This is the thing that I've noticed over and over and over again, is that in order to get really good at something, right? It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a, you know, craft, you know, creating, fabricating jewelry, or painting, or anything, writing, whatever it is, anything, any endeavor. In order to get good at it, it takes a certain amount of time. And education. A lot of the times when it's, you know, something like, you know, there are lots of resources for learning how to, but you have to apply those on your own. And until you reach the point where, you know, everybody has these expectations about how, you know, they want things to go, and that's great. But if your expectations are beyond what your abilities are, which is perfectly normal when you're first starting out. When you're first starting out, everything you do sucks, right? Have you ever, I mean, if you're watching this, probably you are a crafter of some kind, you started making jewelry, you know, maybe you tried soldering, maybe you tried fabrication, maybe you tried stone cutting, whatever it was. When you first did it, you were terrible at it. Nobody starts out as an expert, right? Everybody starts out terrible, and you have to, there's a learning curve in everything. So you have to reach the point where your abilities begin to match your expectations. And only once you know, and until you reach that point, you can't be discouraged. You can't let, you know, pits and pratfalls of day-to-day business, get you down and wear you down. You have to work through it. You have to be able to say, look, this is not working out right now. It's going to, let me just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep learning, keep applying. And then when you reach the point where your abilities match your expectation, then that's when it starts to work, and that's when you start to really see your everything grow. Your abilities. You reach a point, if you're making jewelry fabrication, fabricating jewelry, you reach a point where all of a sudden those things that you were never able to do, that you couldn't quite, when they become easy, then just the general quality of your jewelry increases exponentially. It starts to get to the point where you're in that rarefied air of famous jewelers who have put in that time and put in that effort and put in that thing and never got discouraged. Too many people leave the business or the craft or the thing before they reach that point, right? And it's perfectly understandable. If you're just doing it for a hobby, then you don't really care. You reach a point where, well, this is cool, this is nice, this is fun, I'm having fun doing this. You don't really care about progressing. But if you want to make this a business and you want to reach the point where you're actually making money to supplement your income or to replace your income once you reach a certain point, you have to put the effort and then you have to put the time in, and there's no shortcuts. Sorry, you just have to do it. Okay, that's about as inspirational as I'm going to get. This is a short one, right? Barely half an hour. Good, it'll look good on the YouTube algorithm. Nobody likes to sit around for an hour watching me wax on about, look how great this setting is. But just wanted to give you this little